Reddit by Reddit recap. What is the worst thing you've ever done for money? My stepsister once found $10 at the fair. She decided to do the right thing and turn it in. I later on went to the office and pretended like I lost my $10. I felt bad, but I knew nobody was going to claim that shit. I used to sell Sudafed to a guy for $60 a box. One weekend I made $600. I used to ride around with the boxes stuffed under my back seat. I felt terrible because I knew what the guy was doing with them. But when you're a full-time college student, you can really use the extra money. To the OP, I saw your story going a whole different direction when the manager wiggled his finger and say follow me to the freezer. I used to do homework for people, help people cheat on tests, would bring in a few $100. Not so much the worst thing I did for money, but the worst thing I ever paid for, inspired by the slug story. I worked at a summer camp for a long time, and one year there were these huge worms everywhere as it had been a wet summer. These fuckers were like 6 inches long and half an inch wide. I told a bunch of 9-year-olds I'd give them $1 each if they ate a worm, but very quickly the market economics of the situation drove the price down, as some of these 9-year-olds displayed some sharp business savvy, undercutting one another until the price was down to 5 cents worm. I am responsible for worm genocide at a summer camp, and it only cost me about $3, and a lot of puking children. Edit. Whoops. I realize it said 9 half an inch wide. It should read as half an inch wide. I was not feeding the kids chode worms, just normal worms. Took a shot of Dave's insanity sauce for a crisp $20 bill. In hindsight, it was a poor choice. I puked fire almost immediately after. A few hours later I shit magma. Haven't touched the stuff since. When I was about 17, some freshman girls at my school asked if I could get them any sort of pills. I told them yeah and asked what they wanted. The girls said ecstasy. I knew where to get ecstasy, but they wanted it within the next 6 hours or so. Knowing they were complete idiots, I told them it'd be $10 per pill, so they asked for 3. I got a plastic bag and put 3 vitamin C tablets in it and sold it to them. The next week, they asked me for more because they said it barely worked. Very late, early in the morning, 2 AM or so, I was going home from the bars and walked up a very long stretch of subway stairs. I was wearing a short skirt. The guy behind me offered me $100 to walk up the stairs again and, well, I needed the money. I walked up the stairs again. He gave me the money. I walked away. Once upon a time, I had long hair and wore skinny jeans and was wearing a big winter jacket and was a feminine young teenage boy. The point is that sometimes people thought I was a girl. One day, after a long day at work, I was exhausted. I sat down on the bus, 11:45 at night, and this super drunk guy sits down a few seats back and drunkenly says, "Hey, what's up?" I nod at him. About halfway to my house, he moves into the seat right behind me and leans over. "Hey, you alright, darling?" At this point I realize he thinks I'm a girl and don't want to freak him out by talking with my obviously male voice, so I just say a meek yeah. He nods and sits back down in his own spot. About 30 seconds before my bus stop, he gets up, moves to the seat behind me, looks around quickly, and puts a $100 bill next to me, then goes back and sits down. I look at him, utterly shocked, and he gives me this sly smile and nod, and motions me towards him. Obviously I took the money and got off the bus. I didn't actually do anything aside from look pretty, but I still felt pretty dirty. Broke into someone's house with the intention of planting incriminating evidence on a guy's hard drive in an effort to get his girlfriend to break up with him. The goal was for my employer to subsequently swoop in and steal her. The funny thing was I didn't even need to implant the fake stuff I had brought. The guy already had some pretty sick stuff on his hard drive, so all I had to do was make copies and leave them in a conspicuous place for the girlfriend to find. And that's the story of how I was able to afford my Xbox. I cleaned houses in my lingerie gig I picked up in art school. At first I loved it. $20 HR. They aren't allowed to touch. The clients were really respectful. Of course all of them wanted you to scrub the floor on your hands and knees. After a month I started to feel awful about myself. Degraded. My last client treated me terribly. Acted like I was a slave. He told me I did a bad job and made me do it again and again and again until I was in tears. That's what he wanted. He paid me, tipped me very well. I felt gross and quit after. I worked as a loan agent for a pawn shop. There was a parking lot that the porn store sold $200 year parking lot passes to college students. The porn store's lot was right next to campus. This was all fine and dandy, but the lot needed to be enforced so that everyone who paid for a pass had a place to park. This was a side job that management had given to us. We technically didn't have to do it. So why did we? Well, just hang on a sec. It was my job to go out periodically with a list of permitted license plate holders and put a boot on the car that parked without permission. The cost of removing the boot was $50 or we call a tow company. Cash only, no cards etc. The incentive was that for any car we collected a $50 boot release fee. We personally retained the $50 bucks. I used to make anywhere between $150 to $500 extra dollars a week doing this because so many college students and professors were in a rush to class or didn't see our signs. I made much more money around Christmas time when the hill just next to us was covered in snow and used for sledding. Yes, we booted families' cars while they took their kids sledding. Merry Christmas bitches. TL. Doctor, I pocketed $50 from unpermitted persons that parked in my store's parking lot while essentially ruining their days. Edit. For the record, I quit because of this. Dated this girl for a while. She called me up one day and said, "Do you feel like making an easy $500? I asked her what I had to do and she said, "Watch this weird dude jack off." I was like, hell yeah, as long as I don't have to touch him or have him touch me. So I went over there and it was in this mansion near the Marina District in SF. She and I watched him masturbate. She had already made $1,000 watching him do it once. Once he was done, he asked if we knew anyone else who would participate. In the end, we had about 6 of my friends over to his house, and we all sat in a semicircle around him at a range of about 15 feet. He wanted us no closer, and we watched him jerk off. Everyone involved made over $1,000 in less than an hour. I would have to say I would do this every day for that kind of money. Weird though. I guess that is how the 1% spends their money. Paid my way through college with odd jobs and contract work. Started with little fix-its, then went into some pretty neat work where I would help people brainstorm on ways to fix their problems. Usually office-related problems, logistics, customer complaints, even building enough desktop computers with parts of Newegg to fill 2 entire floors worth of offices with higher-end computers at a fraction of the cost to buy them off the shelf. Slowly, after becoming reliable and trustworthy, a few of the companies would have me move things at weird hours, boxes and bins of records, escort people and things through rough areas and sometimes across multiple states. Sometimes I was just along to be a large quiet guy in the room conspicuously not wearing a suit. Created a throwaway for this part, but there were a few times, not many, where I was asked to find industrial construction sites that were laying a foundation, which means a thick slab of concrete not likely to go anywhere for a long time. Find them and gain quiet access to the sites the night before the concrete pouring. I did construction when I was younger, and I still knew a lot of people working these sorts of sites, so a few phone calls is all it took. While I don't have direct confirmation of the reason, the price I was paid leads me to believe that it likely involved bodies. I've sold a $100 HDMI cable before that was 3 feet long. A job is a job, but I still feel bad. In college, since my vehicle wouldn't be recognized by those involved, I drove a man in his 30s across town to spy on his girlfriend wife, I can't remember which, who was rumored to be out with another man. She was. I got $20 and a case of Bud Light. Not really bad, but I felt skeezy doing it since I barely knew these people and I provided a path to his heartache for beer basically. I think I've told this story before and I'm late to the party. When I was a teenager, a man offered me $100 to pee in his coffee cup at a 24 coffee house I hung out at. I did it and then he looked me directly in the eyes as he drank it. This happened several times. To a 15-year-old, having someone pay you to pee and then drink it seemed awesome, and it was. Then I got older and learned it was a fetish, and for some reason, it shocked me. I don't regret it though. Lived in Los Angeles. I was handed $2,000 in cash, a Greyhound ticket to Vegas, and a car key. I was to get to Vegas, go to a specific hotel casino, find a specific car in a specific lot, and drive it back to Los Angeles and leave it in a specific place. I would receive an additional $3,000 on my return. I was not to attempt to look in the trunk. I was not to take anyone with me. I was not to make any stops along the way. I had 48 hours. I did it, no questions asked, and with plenty of time to spare. I did it 3 more times in 6 months. each under the same conditions. I have plenty of ideas of what may have been in those trunks, especially knowing the people that were supplying the cash. Looking back now, I'm damn fucking happy I never got caught. I worked as a personal assistant to a 22-year-old who was in the midst of a psychotic breakdown. He hired me while he was drunk at a mutual friend's birthday party. He paid me $8 HR to hang out with him in his apartment, do his laundry, drive him around, buy him socks, and watch movies with him. He hired my boyfriend as his personal chef, and another of our friends as his vice president. He would have me go over to his apartment to heat up food before bringing dates home, to trick them into thinking he had a butler. He sent me on a 2-day expedition to pick up a blown-up print of the movie poster for the Johnny Depp Willy Wonka movie. He had me research SpongeBob episodes for some reason. My boyfriend cooked Cornish game hens and lobsters for him every day. I wrote some of his college papers for him. Eventually he decided to expand his business and hired a bunch of Harvard students as interns, and bought them all power books. They just sat around all day in his kitchen day in and out, confused as fuck. He made us play touch football together every afternoon. We had nothing but Smirnoff Ice and Red Bull in the fridge. Eventually it culminated in him taking us out for a night of debauchery, which ended up at a sleazy tattoo parlor, where he told us he'd give us money to tattoo his name on our bodies. He got a tattoo, 2 of the interns got tattoos, and my best friend who was along for the ride got a tattoo. I agreed to let him pay to pierce my nipple for a lesser sum of money. Ultimately he wound up crying hysterically while making out with my best friend. The next day his mother visited, found out what was going on, froze his assets, and shut the whole thing down. He bought us an arcade game, Killer Instinct, to put in our apartment as severance pay, and dropped out of school. We found out later that he had formerly gone to Brown University, where he was expelled for selling mushrooms, but because his father was a judge, he got off. It was the weirdest summer of my life. I made about $3,500. Best comment of the day. I babysat like 12 kids for 4 hours. They were between 4 and 9 years old. One of them tried to microwave a frozen water bottle. It almost lit the microwave on fire because the label had a small strip of metal in it. Another kid called 911, which I didn't realize it until the dispatcher called back and I explained what happened. Their parents later told me that the kid did this all the "thanks for the heads up" finally got them all watching a movie and playing charades, so the rest of the night went smoothly. It was just too many kiddos at once. I was 15 at the time and only got $20 for the whole night. My dad was the one that paid me. Basically all the neighbors were friends and wanted to go out together, my dad and stepmom included. Never watched that many kids at once again.